So Mrs. Naked Gardener has got us a lot of tomato plants out here in our backyard garden. And we have some in our beds and out in the tomato alley. And we've been getting a lot of questions on when we should prune and how we should prune. So in this video, we're going to go over how you should prune your tomato plants. And we're going to start right now. What's going on YouTube gardening? It's your boy Sydney from the Naked Gardener channel. After watching this video, hopefully you learn how to prune your plants and what reasons why you should prune your plants. Now, if you like these types of videos, we do a lot of gardening videos and DIY projects. So if this is something that you're interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss an upload. Now, here we have one of our tomato plants, and this one is the striped Roma tomatoes. Before we get into pruning, there's two different types of tomato plants that you want to be concerned about. One is the indeterminate plant, and those could grow anywhere from 5 foot up to 12 foot or maybe even higher than that. Now, those basically will send out their fruits and flowers all throughout the year until the first frost. That depends on if you bring them inside or not. Now with determinate plants are set anywhere from 3 to 5 feet high, and they send out all of their flowers. Once they send out all their fruits, they die off. So if you have a determinate plant, you want to kind of do those in succession, probably like every 3 to 5 weeks. But right here, what we're going to show you 3 ways why you want to prune your plant. So we're going to give you 3 reasons why we prune our tomato plants. Now, before we prune, we always like to disinfect our shears. And you just basically get you some natural peroxide. It's not necessary that you do this, but if you're unsure if you have any disease or fungus that you've been pruning off, don't want to make sure you carry that over to your next plant. So all you have to do is just get you some cotton balls and some peroxide, disinfect your pruning shears, and you're good to go. So the first reason why you want to prune your tomato plant is, right as you can see here, is you have some lower leaves, and then when it rains, some of your soil will splash up underneath there and causing it to have some type of disease, fungus like blight or just spotting. And so what we normally do is we'll go cut the first bottom part of the leaves, and we'll leave about a 12 to 16 inch gap, so that way it kind of resists the splatter from the soil coming up underneath there. Now, another way you could prevent the soil coming up and splashing on there is when it rains or whenever you're watering, you could put some mulch around here, so that will help. Those are 2 ways you can help relieve any type of disease or fungus from getting underneath your leaves. So once, all you have to do is you just get as close as possible to the stem, and that's that. Now the next reason why you want to prune your tomato plant is when you're pruning your tomato plants, you got to look for what we call suckers. Now, suckers are this little extra stem that's coming out from the elbow. So you basically have your, like for instance, you have your leader line, you have your leader plant or your main stem plant, which, let's say for instance my body. Then you have your branches off, which is considered my arm, and then you have another leaf that will come out from either underneath or through the top of the stem, that little opening from there. Now we basically prune that. If we want a bigger yield, we'll cut off the suckers, so that way it produce more of that and bring that energy back down to the plant and start putting that energy to the flowers. Now the good thing about these suckers is, like I said, they're not a bad thing. All you have to do when if you have a sucker that's anywhere from about 4 to 6 inches long like this, you could just put it in some water and let it soak in some water for about a week to 2 weeks. We have did these suckers off of these plants, or actually off of the tomato alley plants, and we got some good roots and this was just off of a week's worth time frame of roots right here. So you can just basically stick these into some soil, and then it will start growing from there. Now, the last way you can prune your tomato plant is what we call topping them off. And you normally want to top off, what we normally top off our indeterminate plants. If we're at an okay height for it to go, we'll just cut the main off of that leader line, what I was telling you about, the leader stem. We'll cut that off, whatever desired height that we want that plant to grow, and it will stop growing from there and start bringing out shoots from other parts of the leaves. That's when it starts getting a little bit more bushier, and you can produce your harvest from there. So those are 3 ways that we prune our tomato plants. The first one is we prune our plants from the bottom up, so that way when water hits the soil and its soil bounces back up on the bottom of the leaves, it decreases the chances of any type of fungus or bacteria getting on our leaves and destroying our plant. And then we'll mulch around there, and to also help decreases the chance. The second reason is if we want a bigger yield, we will take off the suckers so that way we can get a bigger yield, bigger fruit from our plant. If we don't want a bigger fruit from our plant, we just want a larger harvest, we will leave the suckers on like we do in our tomato bush, our tomato alley. We'll show you that in a few minutes. And the last one is we'll just top it off on our indeterminate plants. Once we get a certain height that we're okay with it to be in at, to be manageable, and that way it'll just start sending out its fruit from there. So next we'll take it over, show you how we're going to prune our tomato alley plant. For those that couldn't see from far, you have your leader line is just going to be this right here, and right here is your sucker. So all you have to do is just cut that off. Here goes another leader that branch. This one actually has 2 leaders, and actually this one was the sucker, and we just missed it, so it became another leader off of here. And this is the Wagner blue-green tomato, so it's a big tomato, so we want to make sure we get a big harvest off of these. This one is a indeterminate plant. Once again, I'm going off of the basic. We're going off the basics from what we showed you. We're going to prune from the bottom up, take those off. This will be a good one you can stick in some water, but I don't think we need any more of these. Prune that. That looks kind of suspect. Look at this, babe. We might have a hornworm somewhere around here.
So when you see something like that,
you got to inspect it.
Gotta bring the black light out.
These are all small, and we'll take this one. All right. So I don't think there's any more small ones. All right. So now we're at the tomato alley, and we're going to show you the reasons why you want to prune up from the soil. As you can see, we're going to be showing you why how the leaves are getting kind of discolored and everything, and that's basically from the soil here splashing up underneath there. So once again, we just take it from the bottom. And see right here how this sucker is growing up. Since this is we want all of these to be a bush type of plant, we're going to leave all of our suckers on here. But anything that's below the surface, we're going to cut down to kind of decrease the chances of the soil from hitting the bottom here. Once the plant gets tall, and anything that's below the bottom rail of this, we're going to cut off all the leaves. And then once the plant gets about a certain height, we're going to top the tomatoes off, so that way it won't grow anymore. And that because we don't really have much room to trellis it off or to clip it off or anything, to stake it off. And so that's going to be the point of that. So we're going to finish pruning these off and show you how it's going to look afterwards. All right. So we basically transferred a lot of those tomatoes that were in containers over here, since once the sun gets over towards the west, it gets a lot of sunlight over here. And we're going to be doing an irrigation system coming over onto these beds so we can start water these automatically. If you're interested in how we're going to be doing that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss that upload. So we're pretty much done over here. The next thing we have to do is just kind of cage up these tomatoes, and then once they get above a certain height, we're going to top those off just like we're going to be doing in the tomato alley. If you like these type of videos, make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel and haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And until the next video, let's grow together.